Oh, we feel we had an excellent reception in New Hampshire. And I don't know what report you all got, but it was an excellent reception.
Have you made any final decision yet?
No, we haven't made any final decision, but Alabama's got a lot of friends in New Hampshire, and we're going to be in Richmond, Virginia, I believe, the night of the 10th of this month.
If you do run for president, will you run in the New Hampshire primary?
Well, not necessarily, but we are considering that primary, but we haven't made any definite commitment yet. But we received an excellent reception.
Anything at all affect your decision to run in New Hampshire, Governor?
No, in fact, that was done because Dr. Ernest Stone recommended to us that we do that and that we give this additional money for capital outlay for Huntsville A&M and the Alabama State here. Alabama State needs about an extra several $100,000 to acquire property to expand, and this was done for that purpose. And Dr. Stone, the Superintendent of Education, recommended that to the governor's office, and we followed the state superintendent's recommendation. The only demonstrators we saw outside of the hotel were pro-Alabama demonstrations.
If you were a betting man, how would you bet?
Well, you put me on the spot there, Rex. Well, the odds are more in favor of our running than not. Although people can do many things to politicians and parties, and I'm sure that if they've got their ear to the ground, they'll see if they'll go all the way from Boston back down to Alabama here, they'll see that there are many people who are very much disturbed about trends in our country. And you can see in the paper about the Southerners in the Congress on the matter of schools. There's more opposition to the matter of the takeover of the schools now being voiced by people from other regions of the country in the Congress. And I think that shows that this movement is having its effect. Thank you, Paul. Let's drop. Here comes the break. Here's the break. Here's the break. Come on up here. Stand up here with us. Pass them. From afar. Well, a great number of people throughout the country were active in our movement in all 50 states, and our movement is here to stay. And we feel this is a good way to stay in touch with those who supported the campaign of 1968 and to impress upon the other two parties that we're still here and that the direction of the country ought to change, and if it doesn't change, then we will be here in years to come.
The letter is also a vehicle for discussing issues that are confronting the nation each day. Is this correct?
That's correct. We're going to discuss the matter of taxes, Vietnam, all aspects of our foreign policy, heavy government spending, the continuous trend to destroy local institutions and take away the control of local people to determine policies of local institutions such as schools and otherwise, because the matter of the breakdown of law and order, we feel that our campaign was eminently successful in that it made the other two parties take positions on these matters they never would have taken had our movement not been involved.
How you doing?
You really think the president has any that much influence?
I think the president of the United States, when he says he's against busing, he was for freedom of choice, and I even opposed that imposition of that system on the schools of Alabama. I think it was no right of them to impose any system on the people of Alabama or Mississippi, any other state. But when the president of our nation says he is for the control locally of the public school systems, he's strong enough and powerful enough and has influence enough that he has exerted his opinion and attitude in that direction that it would certainly stop the destruction of the public schools in this country. Well, we're going to Honolulu, and then I believe to Tokyo, and then from there on we'll begin our trip that will carry us to Formosa and Singapore, Hong Kong, South Vietnam, of course, and South Korea, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Laos as it stands now. In fact, I believe we got an invitation yesterday to address the Hong Kong Businessmen's Club. I don't know whether we will be able to accept or not, but that's the first leg, is to get to Honolulu and then to Tokyo, and from there on we'll get into the trip.
What's your reaction to yesterday's decision by the U.S. Supreme Court against the state of Mississippi in schools?
Well, it's typical of the Supreme Court of the United States, and of course I have no hopes for the court at the present time, and I can tell you this is a prime issue in this country, and the American people are getting tired of the experimentation with their children, and I say within the law, in the not too distant future, the people are going to take back their children from the Supreme Court of the United States. They have about destroyed the school system in Alabama and throughout the country, and I can tell you that that movement of the people is going to take back within the law, in the not too distant future, the right to control the destiny of the education of their children. And it's a scurrilous decision. It's typical of the court, and the court's not any better than it ever has been. In fact, this administration school policy is just as bad or worse than the Johnson administration so far. We in Alabama are extremely interested in what takes place in Southeast Asia, because 1,000 Alabamians have lost their lives and many more hundreds have been wounded and maimed, along with other American servicemen and allied servicemen. And having been a presidential candidate and still involved in national politics, insofar as our movement is concerned, I'm making a trip that I have long wanted to make. It's a fact-finding trip for the purpose of better acquainting myself with the situation that exists politically and militarily in that part of the world. I spent some time at the office, and you know how spending time at the office is. You're just very busy, so we're always conferring.
Another rumor has been that you have been considering, or it's been mentioned that news commentator Paul Harvey would be a running mate.
I haven't talked to Mr. Harvey about that at all, so that I don't want to bandy his name around, but Paul Harvey is an excellent, fine news commentator, but I haven't discussed the matter with Mr. Harvey. But Mr. Harvey would do well, and whatever he'd undertake, he'd do a good job.
What type of man would you consider as a running mate? Would he be a Southerner or from the Midwest?
Well, I think that geography doesn't mean as much as it used to mean, but we hope. We feel that we're going to have a good vice presidential candidate regardless of where he comes from.
How about convention date and time?
It's going to be about the middle of September.
What place will it be?
Not sure yet, but our office is working on that, and we'll have an announcement.
Thank you.
Of course, I didn't see anything much about except what I heard and saw on television, but I can say this, that in my judgment, the police probably used restraint, if you want to know the truth about the matter. When a group of folks think they can just take over a city, and then a group of ultra-liberal left-wingers who would turn this country over to the anarchists in the convention, that shows how far we progressed toward anarchy. And the National Democratic Party and the National Republicans, headed up by Warren and Chief Justice Warren and the other liberals in the Congress, along with the nominee of that party who endorsed all the legislation that these anarchists demanded, they have brought this condition about in the country, where you cannot hold a convention unless you have a fortress. And so I think that the police ought to be commended for the restraint they've used under severe provocation. And this group of folks that invaded Chicago have invaded other cities, and if it were not for the police, they would destroy the safety completely of every law-abiding citizen in this country.
Governor, I know you're not thinking of it, but if it would ever come to it, which of the two other candidates could you support?
I would do like the old saying in the rural South is, if I didn't have anything to vote for but the National Republican Party or the National Democratic Party, I'd let it lie out.
You could support neither Nixon?
I could support neither one of them at the polls, no.